name is Dave. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the drill press. And the reason I'm talking about the drill press is for my daughter. My daughter's name is Danny. Danny lives up in Vancouver, Washington, and she's developed an interest in woodworking, which I've been trying to nurture. This week I sent her a box to kind of coach her along to start using her drill press. For her birthday, I bought her a Wen 14-inch drill press, and she hasn't, what girl would just run right out and use her drill press, right? So I sent her a box, and within the box it had a large Fostner bit. It has a vise for the drill press to hold parts. It has 3 pieces of wood in it. It's got some speed charts in it. It's got quite a number of things in it, basically designed to encourage her to get up. I also included, excuse me a second, here we are. I included some votive candles for her. I'm just trying to encourage her to try to make something, thus the pieces of wood and whatnot. So some of this will be interesting, I hope, to everyone, and just remember, quite a bit of it is focused towards Danielle. Now I'm redoing this intro here because I had my sound all wrong, and at the end I also apologize for not doing anything with metalworking. To be clear, I won't be doing anything with metalworking in this demo, but I do want to review the parts of the bandsaw. Well, guess what my last video was? Bandsaw. So I do want to review all the working parts and description of the drill press, and let's take a few minutes, reset the camera, and get right to it, okay? Thanks so much. Be right back. Okay, before we get started, I thought it would be a good idea to show you some of the opportunities you have with the different kinds of bits that are available to you. And my representation here is rather small compared to what is available to you. So for example, this is a metalworking bit. For me, I use it on my lathe. I like it because it leaves a round bottom hole and doesn't have a brad point or a twist bit. It leaves a little hole all the time. So this is always a nice smooth bottom, something when you're making a bowl is desirable. So this is my largest Fostner bit. It's used for me. I use it for making clocks. This will be for a small insert clock that I'll install in a piece of wood, and it drills the proper size hole. Now, some of you may think, oh my gosh, that's a real big bit. You can buy much, much bigger, 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch bits. They keep going and going. So lots of opportunities. This one is for drilling large holes. So for example, set up as it is right now, this edge of the hole to this edge of the hole, well, that's probably about 4.5 inches right there. But this is a very dangerous bit to use. This is the knuckle reducer, the knuckle grabber, the knuckle crusher, any number of things. So this bit goes in the quill like this, and as it spins, this wing is coming around with quite a bit of force, and if you get your hand in the wrong place, you get quite a wrap. Now, this is a small portion of my Fostner bits, so these are the ones I use the most often. I have many within these ranges already. They're over in another drawer. But you can go online and order them very specific. You can order them in metric, you can order them in SAE. It all works very nice. Now most everybody has a set of twist drills, right? You use these in your hand drill. If you take a look here, this is the same Jacob's chuck that's in your hand drill. So all the bits you already have will work in your drill press. Now some of the other things to mention real quick is styles of drill presses. So mine's an older one, and I do the belt changes to control the speed. Newer ones today are variable speed, and you just turn a dial. We'll have a digital readout on here to tell you how fast your quill is turning. Other things that are different, the cast iron table, it does tilt one way and the other. Now that gives you opportunity for different kinds of drilling. This one, remember, this is called a floor model. This whole table comes up and down, and for me right here it comes to about my knees. So if I needed to drill a hole in the end of a post or a chair leg, something like that, I could lower this table down, put the product in a vise, clamp it securely, and I could use the drill press to drill a proper hole in it. So lots and lots of things. I'll mention a little bit later how people do different things with the table. For example, I do have a table that I put on here that has a fence. Other people build very intricate tables with T-tracks in them, different hold downs. They use flip stops. There's lots and lots of things you can do with a drill press. So this is a very, excuse me, a very versatile tool. Offers you lots and lots of opportunity and creativity. One thing I always want to mention when we're talking about a tool, this is still a powered tool. It can hurt you. You do need to practice safe methods with it. It can cut you, it can amputate, it can send things flying, any number of things. So always respect a tool, keep it clean, keep it in good working order. You take care of it and it will, of course, take care of you. So what do you say we move on and go ahead and review the different parts of the drill press and see what else we can create, all right? Okay, we'll be right back. Well, okay, let's talk about the different parts of the assembly of a drill press. So if we come all the way around, so I can get out of your way, the very first thing is the large handle. It's almost all of them have 3 sprockets on them, and this handle is what drives the quill up and down. So the quill is this whole assembly through here. This is called the Jacob's chuck. The Jacob's chuck is what holds your bit in place, and it's controlled by a chuck key. You have your drill bit. This is the shank of the drill bit. So the Jacob's chuck, when you turn it to the left or clockwise, it opens the jaws, and when you turn it counterclockwise, it closes the jaws. And there are 3 jaws. When you insert the bit, you just slowly close it, give it a little wiggle sometimes, make sure it's in between, and then when you tighten it down, it does not take a gorilla grip of tightening. It's just a little past hand tight. If you crank it down, it's going to be really hard to get off. But you can put it on too loose sometimes and it will drop out while you're drilling. But you'll get used to that and understand how much pressure you need on your own drill press. Start button, stop button, these are in different locations on different saws. Maybe you can notice here I have my own light here. Many have a light directly underneath here. They're just all different kinds and different brands. I'm going to have to move the camera around in a moment. On this side over here is your depth stop. Now mine has a simple little lever right here. It's just a screw, so that when I lower it, I can just tighten it just a little bit and it'll hold the bit in place, and at that point I can adjust my depth stop to where I want without having to fight trying to hold it down. It's a nice feature. Now for mine, I need to change my belt speeds or my drill press speed by changing the belt on this pulley up here, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 pulleys, one on each end, and then 3, 4 in the center. Up here again at another angle, I'll show you there's a speed chart on here as well. So those are all very important. Now my light here, I wanted to show it to you. Let me turn it off. So I think this is a good investment. I use them all over my shop. This is actually a sewing machine light. It's a little LED light. Puts a great amount of light on the thing. I use them on my grinder. I have them on my drill press. I have them on my bandsaw. I have them on my lathe. I find it to be a very, very convenient light, and sometimes when I'm working in the garage I might grab this if I'm working on the car or something like that. But they're a little magnetized light, little on-off switch, does a great job. Some of you will find out in a few more years that you need more light because, well, you've gotten a little bit older. It happens. So the other part is the table. The table is usually a cast iron metal table. It usually has slots in it. I use a sacrificial table on the top. When you're drilling through a piece of wood, if you have the piece you're drilling through secured to a sacrificial table, you'll find you don't get the tear out on the piece you're going through. I also have hold down clamps, and there are many ways to have hold down clamps. There are many styles of tables. You can build large drill press tables with fences and stops and all kinds of things. It's how much do you need and what do you need. So for me, I generally use these vice grip type of clamps. If I need to secure a fence down, for example, all I have to do is put it on the table, turn it, adjust it, and use it to hold down my fence. That way when I'm feeding a board through and I want holes in a particular place so far from the edge, I've got it, or the support that I need. So let me take a minute and bring the camera over to this side because it's important to show you how the depth stop works. So I'll be right back, okay? So let's talk about the depth gauge a little bit. So this is it right here, and it's quite a simple process. You have a rod, a threaded rod or a bolt basically, and you have a knurled wheel that you can spin up and down, and there's a scale on it, which is nice to have. So different brands work different ways. So mine is a Delta, and this is an older model, and it has right here a button to push or release. And once you push that in, you can slide this up and down very quickly. So makes it nice. And if you need to just change it, the graduations on the rule, you just spin it around and, you know, correct your measure. So the way we're going to set this is you would turn your plunge wheel to the depth that you want it, lock it on the other side, and then simply drop this down. So it comes in contact with this steel plate, and now you're controlling your depth of cut or depth of plunge, however you'd like to phrase that. Now again, this is a Delta model. This is how it works on this one. Now my daughter's, she has a Wen 14-inch, and hers has, of course, the same rod, but it's got the two knurled nuts on it, and you would spin the bottom nut to the depth that you wanted it to go. Then you would bring the upper nut down and tighten the two of them together, and you're locked in place, and then it works the exact same way. But that's an important feature. You'll use it over and over again. Okay, let's keep going. All right, back to this side of the drill press. So again, you have the 3-wheel unit turn, and then we set the depth on there. That's why it's not going any further. So this is real easy, and sometimes because of the shape of a piece, maybe you have to take one of these handles off. They just easily unscrew. There's a flat here for tightening them with a wrench. But every once in a while you'll find you have a hold down and you go to rotate and the handle hits the hold down, so maybe it's necessary to pop one of these off so that you can use it. Now I mentioned on this drill press you have to adjust the pulleys on the top. So to adjust those pulleys, all you're doing is on the back one, you're going to release the motor right here with a little handle, and then you use this to swing it in and out, and there's two tubes back here that it slides on. So by moving it one way, you release the tension on the belts, and then you move them into the position that's necessary. So let's take a moment and look at the inside of this case. Okay, if we take a moment to open up the top door, as I mentioned, you see that we have 1, 2, 3 different pulleys and there's 4 different positions on each pulley. So you've got a drive belt here and one here that we can't see out of sight, and if I loosen this pulley, then this whole unit becomes slack as well, and then I move according to the chart what speed I want. So for example, right now I've got it on 1, 2, I think I have it on 700 right now. So that's all that takes. So here we go. I mentioned to you that one of the reasons I was doing this video was for my daughter. And here's an example of some of the things that I sent her. I did send her a couple of votive candles in glass, votive candles in the little container. I sent her a brand new 1 5/8 inch Fostner Bit. I sent her some wood, and my goal was to encourage her to try to make a votive candle out of something as simple as this piece of wood. So let me get things set up here for you to show you how all of this is going to work. So the first thing we're going to do is insert our bit. So I already mentioned you turn it clockwise to loosen the jaws, and you turn it counterclockwise to tighten the jaws. Hand tighten with a little twist to get the bit in place. You want to make sure your table is locked down and a good space for what you're going to do. Now for us, we're about to do this piece, but first I wanted to do a demonstration of the bit. So we're going to bring it down. I'm going a little bit far here. I didn't want to reset the table again. And we'll set our depth. So we'll lock it in place that holds the wheel. We'll drop down the depth adjustment, and then of course just release. So I want to show you that it's always a really good idea to hold on to your piece with a hold down. So this will take a moment to get to the right spot here. These are, like I say, they're just a vise clamp, but that one piece will hold it pretty darn tight. 2 is will hold it real tight. Sorry about that. So you always want to check that your bit is not going to hit your hold downs. So what I'm telling you to hold this down for is there's a lot of torque, and when you start this in here, now again this is only moving about 600 RPM. If you had failed to set that speed and you turned it on and you were already at 1000 RPM, this is an awful lot of grip, and there's a great chance that what you're holding on to is going to spin. And when it spins, it can draw your hand into the bit. You can cut your knuckles, you can cut your hand, and this piece of wood is probably going to go flying. And I'm going to give a demonstration of that in a moment. So all you got to do, remember we've set our depth, is come on down, start nice and slow. And if you look at my hand, I'm barely pushing down at all. Right now we're at that depth. Turn it back off, release, and nice round flat bottom hole, clean all the way around, and that's the beauty of that bit. So if we don't break the glass, Dave, our little T light goes in there just fine. And of course you can get many sizes of these bits. I have a number of T lights. This is pretty average size for it. This one's a little loose in here, but that's okay. It makes it easy to pop right out. Now I did want to show you, he says, I did want to show you the bit flying around, or the wood flying around. So this is hand holding it. So you watch when I first start to plunge, you'll see this piece of wood usually starts to move. See that little twist? So if I let go, make sure it's in there a little ways first so I don't get hit. You can imagine that wrapping your knuckles right now. And also, usually when you come up, the board comes up with it. And your first thing is to panic and to try to pull the bit out, and the piece of wood comes up with it, and you've got a good chance of getting conked. So I want you to see, I barely went in there at all, and it has the ability. Now, there's another bit you can use for drilling large holes, and it has a beam that comes out and spins around, and they call that the knuckle breaker. And you always need to be aware of where your hands are in relation to your bit. So I think that was a pretty good demonstration of both how to do it and how not to do it, okay? So let's move along and set it up, come in a little bit closer, and we'll make the first tea light holder, okay? Well, okay, we left the same bit in. I've secured a piece of wood. Actually, it's my block for displaying the bits. And what we're going to do now is drill a hole just on the side of this board. Instead of a round hole all the way down, I'm going to drill half of a hole. We turn the bit on and start to cut. So now, if it was necessary for some reason to cut this shape, maybe I'm getting ready to put this over a piece of pipe and cut that down. How about doing something fancy with my tea light here? Any number of things. Now the other thing, this bit you can do is if I secured this board at an angle like this, I could drill right into the side this way. Let me see if I can get that set up for you. Okay, so I fitted the drill press with a vise, a hold down vise. Let me show you what this looks like. So this vise can hold material, you know, this way, straight up and down, at an angle, any number of things. This drill press, or this vise also tilts this way and this way. So we're gonna just clamp it in here. Make sure it's tight. I have it held down by a vise grip on that side and this side. And all I want to do is be able to drill this hole. I put a little smaller bit on it for this demonstration. Drill this hole at an angle, and a Fostner bit is the tool to do that with. Helps to lock down your table. Alright, well right here is where the table dropped down. I did miss that. So right now, if I had to drill and put a bolt in here at an angle to hold a table leg, maybe you're building a big picnic table, something like that, a workbench, any number of things. if it's necessary for you to cut like a pocket hole, this is one of the ways to do it in a larger scale. So works out very, very well. See if we can get a better look at that. There we go. All right. So another thing, when you have a vise like this, you can add other jaws to it. These are pre-drilled, but you know, being that they're metal, they could also harm a project you're working on. So I use MDF or pieces of thin plywood in here. Also, if you have something that's round you need to hold on to, excuse me, I cut a small block for each side and cut a 45-degree angle in them so that it, you know, comes together and holds whatever's round securely. I do that when I'm making rolling pins. Okay, so the vise I sent my daughter is a little bit different than this one. It's certainly not as heavy and multi-purpose, but it'll work fine for what she has in mind. All right, let's try something else. Okay, let's take a minute and make a votive candle holder. So one of the things I like to do is just find a piece of natural edge scrap. My idea is to use this on a table outside for an evening dinner, maybe at the park or front yard, backyard, I'm not sure. And I like to find one of the little colors. So this one in particular is a piece of olive. And I'm thinking the votive candle is going to end up going in here. So I've made a little pencil mark. I've already set my depth over here on the side. So all I have to do is bring, should I turn that? It makes a difference for you guys. Bring this down to my pencil mark. Hold it for a moment. Take my clamp. Clamp it down to hold it in place. I'm ready to go. So I've already set my depth. All I do is start. Keep my arms out of your way. Tell you one thing, olive smells so good when you're cutting it. Makes these beautiful ribbon shavings. When you're cutting deep, you can see that it's going like this, so it's always good to bring the bit up, let it cool, and knock the shavings out of the way. Look at that. Almost there. There we are. So, one other thing I like to do is I save these shavings and let them dry out a little bit. These are pretty dry already. But if I was giving this as a gift to someone and had it in a box, I use the shavings for packaging. It adds a nice texture to it, a nice aroma to it, that type of thing. So I get the air gun, blow this off, clean it all up, maybe put some walnut oil on it to bring the color out. But as you can see, that works out real nice. It's a little bit too deep for these, of course, but you can take them in and out. So I like the idea of, again, the natural edge wood. I turn small tea candles on the lathe sometimes. You could use a tree branch, any number of things, and have a good time with this. So that was my idea. So again, all we do, drill a hole, pop a candle in there, put it on the table. It's out of the way, big enough and easy enough to pick up and put down. So that's it. One more thing I'll set up for you in just a moment. I'll be right back. All right, here's one more idea for you. This is a small drum sander. And you generally use a drum sander like this for doing curved parts, that type of thing. It is something you can do on a drill press, It's a little rubber cylinder. You have these replacement sleeves. But they serve their purpose. They do a good job. And it's just a matter of, I'm not real sure how well this one's going to do. It's about 30 years old since I've had a belt sander, disc sander. It's not something I use very often, but it's also bulging a bit, but it'll sand off. Not a great demo I'm doing here for you, but a fresh one, all hooked up just right, brand new. They work very, very well, especially for doing inside curves and things. But cleans it up, does a good job. And you get these in all different sizes up to, well, this is a pretty good size one here, but they do come bigger, and they come all the way down to, I think, about 1/8 of an inch. So depending on what you're doing, maybe you're just smoothing out the inside of a big circle you've cut to drop a sink into, that type of thing. One other thing I had failed to mention was using your Fostner bit. This is the bit you would use. You'd buy a 30mm bit to do your cup holes for your European door hinges. Cut the perfect depth, perfectly round hole, flat bottom, drop that hinge in there, screw it down, and you're done. So as you can see, this is an extremely versatile tool. So let's finish up here, get it cleaned up a little bit, and finish up. Well, hey folks, I hope that gave you a glimpse at some of the opportunities you have with a drill press. The one thing I did not talk about, and some of you are probably mad at me for, is the drill press is also a giant tool in the metalworking industry. It's not something that I do, so I didn't think to include it in this, but it's basically designed for cutting through metal, and I use it not very often for metal cutting. I might be cutting a T-track or a piece of aluminum, something like that, but almost any drill press can cut through steel with the right bit in it. Like all good things, have the right tools to do the right job. So I just wanted to think about this video because of my daughter, and I presented things that I sent her in a box she received in this last week, and I hope everybody got a little something out of it. It's a nice tool to have in a shop, whether you have a full stand model or a tabletop model. They all serve their purposes very, very well. So thanks for watching. I do appreciate it, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.